Darkness filled the alien sky, broken only by the red flash of distant explosions. The alien, known as Zorkal, stood at the edge of the observation platform, his trembling hands pressed against the glass. The war had come to his homeworld, finally after years of silence and fear. He had seen many battles, many invasions, but nothing like this. The stars themselves seemed to burn, and somewhere beyond them something ancient was moving. A voice crackled through his communicator. "Commander Zorkal, the humans have arrived." Zorkal froze. For a moment he could not breathe. The humans, the ghosts of the past, the forgotten warriors of old, had returned. Their fleet had not been seen for centuries, hidden beyond the rim of known space. Every species in the galaxy had believed humanity had destroyed itself long ago. But now their armada was entering the war. He turned toward the sky again. Dozens of massive ships, silver and black, broke through the clouds like falling stars. Each ship was surrounded by blue plasma shields that shimmered in the darkness. The alien soldiers around Zorkal gasped as the largest of the ships appeared, an ancient dreadnought, scarred but alive, bearing the old human symbol of the twin wings. Zorkal's voice shook. "They are real." They came back. On the planet's surface below, the war had been going badly. The enemy, known only as the Scourge, was an endless swarm of mechanical horrors that consumed everything they touched. Cities had fallen, planets burned, and entire fleets vanished in the void. No species had been able to stop them. Not the proud Seraphon, not the silent Volcrians, not even the United Galactic Council. But now, the humans were back, and they had brought the past with them. As the first human ships entered the battle, the sky lit up with energy fire. Human dreadnoughts moved like predators, targeting the Scourge fleets with brutal precision. Plasma lances cut through enemy formations, and missiles exploded like miniature suns. The aliens watched in awe as the tide of battle began to shift. "Signal from the human flagship," said an aide, his voice filled with disbelief. "They want to establish contact." Zorkal swallowed hard. "Put them through." A human face appeared on the holographic screen, a woman in a dark uniform, her eyes sharp and calm. "This is Admiral Cassandra Holt of the Terran Restoration Fleet," she said. "To all allied worlds, stand your ground. Humanity stands with you." Zorkal's knees almost gave out. He had studied human history for years, fascinated by their bravery, their chaos, their will to survive. They were legends, myths told around campfires. And now they were real again. The Scourge responded in fury. From orbit, their colossal war engines unleashed dark beams that tore through the atmosphere, striking at the human fleet. One of the smaller human cruisers took a direct hit and exploded, sending debris raining down like fire. But the humans did not retreat. They advanced. Zorkal's soldiers watched as human dropships descended through the firestorm, landing amidst the burning cities. Human marines poured out, their armor glowing, their weapons cutting through the metal creatures. The aliens who had been fighting for days without hope now found new strength. They joined the humans, fighting side by side, shouting in defiance. Zorkal ran to the communication deck. He had to see more. The main display showed hundreds of battles across the planet. Everywhere the humans fought, the tide turned. Their technology was strange, old yet powerful, with a design unlike anything in the modern age. Their voices on the comm channels were calm, confident, almost fearless. "Zorkal!" one of his captains shouted. "We are receiving another transmission, encrypted human code." "Play it." A deep male voice came through the static. "To all surviving command posts, hold your fire. Ancient Armada will initiate orbital cleansing in 2 minutes. Evacuate ground positions immediately." Zorkal's eyes widened. "Orbital cleansing?" Before anyone could respond, the human fleet shifted formation. The dreadnought's cannons glowed with blue light, and moments later, massive beams of plasma rained down on the surface. The ground trembled as the Scourge hordes were vaporized. Whole enemy columns disappeared in blinding white light. When the bombardment ended, silence followed. Smoke rose over the horizon. The Scourge had been destroyed. Zorkal's heart pounded. He could hardly believe what he had witnessed. The humans had done in minutes what entire coalitions had failed to do in years. He sank to his knees and wept, not from fear, not from grief, but from hope. "Commander," said one of his soldiers quietly, "do you think they will stay?" Jorkal looked up at the burning sky where the human ships drifted like silver ghosts. "No," he whispered. "They are not here to stay. They are here to finish what they started long ago." Far above the planet, Admiral Holt stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the aftermath. Her officers were silent, staring at the devastation below. She clasped her hands behind her back. "Prepare the next phase," she ordered. "We've been gone too long. It's time the galaxy remembered why they feared the Terran Armada." The stars outside flickered as the human fleet began to move again, toward the next world under attack. And deep within his heart, Jorkal felt something new for the first time in decades: hope. But somewhere beyond the rim, something darker stirred. The Scourge hive mind had seen the humans return, and it was preparing to answer. The war was far from over. The stars burned like cold fire across the void as the Terran restoration fleet traveled between systems. The human ships moved in silent formation, their hulls still scorched from battle. Admiral Cassandra Holt stood at the center of the command bridge, staring at the holographic map that showed the next target, the Carthos system. "Already under siege by the Scourge. Estimated time to arrival?" she asked. 37 minutes, Admiral," replied her navigator. "Scourge activity is heavy. Carthos Prime's defenses won't last that long." Holt nodded. "Signal the fleet." "Prepare for drop." The bridge crew moved quickly. Across the fleet, massive reactors powered up, their engines glowing blue. The old human war machines, ancient but rebuilt, were ready once again. On every ship, human soldiers armed themselves in silence. They were the descendants of a broken Earth, survivors of centuries hidden in exile. And now, they had returned not as refugees, but as the storm. Far away on Carthos Prime, Commander Jorkal and his forces held the last defense line. The Scourge had returned stronger than before, their mechanical forms glistening with dark energy. They tore through the ruins of alien cities like living machines of death. "Fall back!" shouted one of Jorkal's lieutenants. "We can't hold them!" Jorkal refused to move. "No, hold the line." "The humans are coming!" But even as he said it, doubt whispered inside him. What if they didn't arrive in time? What if the Scourge learned to destroy even them? Then, the sky changed. A thunder of sound shook the air as human ships appeared through the clouds. The massive dreadnought TNS Valiant descended first, its shadow covering the battlefield. Moments later, hundreds of drop pods streaked down like meteors. Each impact burst open to reveal armored humans ready for war. "Terran forces on the ground!" came the voice of a Marine commander through the open channel. "We're joining the fight," Jorkal's soldiers roared in hope. They surged forward with the humans, firing into the swarming Scourge lines. The battle was chaos, smoke, fire, and metal colliding in a storm of noise. The Scourge adapted fast, changing shape, forming walls of blades and claws. But the humans adapted faster. Their plasma rifles and pulse grenades tore through enemy armor with brutal precision. Jorkal fought beside them, his claws burning from heat and exhaustion. He watched a human soldier, a woman barely taller than his chest, take down a Scourge behemoth with a single shot from a railgun. She looked up at him through her cracked visor and gave a brief nod before charging back into the fire. In orbit, Admiral Holt studied the tactical display. "They're evolving," said her science officer. "The Scourge units on Carthos are using human combat data." "They're learning. Then we'll teach them fear," Holt said coldly. "Deploy the Black Division." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The Black Division, humanity's oldest secret. Soldiers enhanced beyond normal limits, trained to fight the worst horrors in the galaxy. They were ghosts, legends even among the fleet. 10 dark ships broke formation and entered the planet's atmosphere. Their hulls shimmered with stealth fields, vanishing from radar. The Scourge didn't even see them coming. Within minutes, explosions tore through the enemy lines. The Black Division moved like shadows, silent and unstoppable. They planted charges, hacked Scourge command nodes, and vanished before counterfire could reach them. On the surface, Jorkal felt the battle shift again. The Scourge formations began to collapse. "They're retreating!" his lieutenant shouted. But Jorkal saw something else, something far more terrifying. In the smoke above the battlefield, a new shape emerged. It was massive, easily the size of a city and unlike any scourge machine seen before. Its body was alive with black lightning, its eyes glowing red. The human Marines stopped firing. For the first time, even they hesitated. "What is that?" someone whispered. Admiral Holt's voice came through the comms, steady but grim. "That," she said, "is a Scourge Prime, the first of their kind. We've just made them angry." The colossal creature opened its mouth, and a beam of red energy cut across the battlefield. Human tanks vaporized. Entire squads vanished in light. The ground cracked open from the force. Squads vanished in light. The ground cracked open from the force. Jorkal screamed into his comm. "Admiral, we need orbital support now." "Understood," Holt replied. "Target locked. Clear the zone." The human fleet repositioned. The dreadnought Valiant lowered its main cannon, glowing brighter than ever before. Holt watched the targeting display blink green. "Fire!" The blast from orbit struck the Scourge Prime dead center. The explosion was so bright that it blinded half the planet's sensors. When the light faded, the creature was gone. Only molten rock remained. The battlefield fell silent again. Smoke drifted over the ruins. Human and alien soldiers stood side by side, too tired to cheer. Jorkal dropped to one knee, staring at the sky. The humans had saved them again, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Later, aboard the Valiant, Admiral Holt watched the battle reports scroll across her console. Victory after victory. But every win came with new losses. The Scourge were learning faster each time. Her communications officer turned to her. "Admiral, message from High Command. They've detected Scourge activity near the old Sol system." The bridge fell silent. Sol, the human home, Earth. Holt clenched her jaw. "Set course," she ordered. "We're going home." Jorkal's transmission came through moments later. "Admiral Holt," he said, his voice low, "I would stand with you when that day comes. For what you've done. For what you are. I owe humanity my life." Holt gave a small, tired smile. "Then prepare your fleet, Commander. Because what's coming next will decide everything." The stars ahead shimmered as the Terran Armada turned toward the ancient cradle of mankind. Behind them, the ashes of victory glowed on Carthos Prime, and somewhere, deep in the dark between stars, the Scourge Hive stirred again, angrier, smarter, and ready to strike back. The war for the galaxy had only just begun. The stars ahead shimmered with cold light as the Terran Restoration Fleet cut through the void. The massive ships moved in perfect formation, their engines humming softly in the silence of space. For the first time in centuries, the human fleet was heading toward Sol, toward Earth, the birthplace of their species. Admiral Cassandra Holt stood on the bridge of the dreadnought TNS Valiant, her hands clasped behind her back. The blue glow from the holographic map illuminated her face, sharp and determined. Around her, the bridge crew worked in silence. Aware that this was more than another battle, it was a return to history. "Status report," Holt said. "Fleet remains at combat readiness," replied her tactical officer. "Scout probes confirm Scourge presence in the Sol system." "They've built something massive." Holt's eyes narrowed. "Show me." The holographic display shifted, showing a dark sphere in orbit between Mars and Jupiter. It pulsed with red light, surrounded by swarms of smaller Scourge drones. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a fortress. "By the stars," whispered one of the officers. "They've turned the asteroid belt into a hive." Holt nodded slowly. "They're trying to erase our past, not while I'm still breathing." Far behind the human fleet, Commander Jorkal watched the same image from his own command ship. His alien fleet, what was left of it, traveled under Terran escort. His people, once proud and strong, were now refugees following humanity into the unknown. "Commander," said his aide softly, "are we truly going to Earth, the human homeworld?" Jorkal's mandibles twitched. "Yes. And there, we will see what the humans fear most, and what they fight for." He leaned forward, studying the fortress image again. The Scourge Hive looked alive, like a heart made of metal and shadow. Every few seconds, a pulse of red energy rippled across it. Something inside was growing. Something ancient. When the fleet reached the edge of the Sol system, silence filled the bridge. Before them, the darkness of space opened like a scar. "Contact," said the sensor officer. "Multiple Scourge fleets inbound. Estimated strength, 200 ships. Prepare all batteries," Holt ordered calmly. "Launch fighter wings and deploy the Black Division. No Scourge makes it past Mars." The battle began almost instantly. Human interceptors streaked through space, dodging laser fire and debris. Plasma rounds burned across the void, lighting up the dark like lightning. Scourge warships moved in swarms, weaving and shifting as if alive. But the Terran fleet held strong, their old war machines roaring back to life. On the planet Mars, human ground forces prepared for impact. Thousands of drop pods crashed into the red dust, releasing soldiers in shining armor. Drones buzzed overhead, mapping enemy positions. The Scourge had already infected part of the Martian surface, twisting old human colonies into black nests. Jorkal's fleet joined the fight, their energy cannons blasting holes in Scourge formations. "For humanity!" shouted one of his captains, a strange cry from alien lips. Back on the Valiant, Holt's eyes darted between tactical screens. "Enemy lines are breaking, Admiral," said her first officer. "But there's something strange. The Hive isn't returning fire." "Not returning fire?" Holt repeated. "They're waiting for something." Before anyone could respond, the holographic map flashed red. Massive energy surge inside the Hive. "Shields up!" Holt shouted. A shockwave burst from the Scourge fortress, spreading like ripples across the system. Several smaller ships were caught in the blast and vanished instantly. The wave washed over the fleet, shaking every hull. Lights flickered, alarms blared, and systems went offline one by one. "What was that?" Holt demanded. Her science officer's face went pale. "Admiral, it's a signal. They're waking something up." Far away, deep inside the Scourge Hive, something stirred. Massive cables pulsed with red light, and metal walls shifted like muscle. In the center of the structure, a colossal machine slowly came to life. A humanoid figure of black steel, its eyes burning crimson. It was larger than any ship in the human fleet. The Scourge Prime had not died. It had evolved. The creature raised its head, scanning the stars. Its voice echoed across every frequency, dark and mechanical. "Humanity returns. We remember." Then it moved. The Scourge Titan emerged from the Hive like a god of war. Its massive arms stretched outward, releasing waves of energy that tore through nearby ships. The fleet scrambled to respond. "Fire everything we have!" Holt shouted. The Valiant unleashed its main cannons, joined by dozens of human and alien ships. The beams struck the Titan's body, but the creature barely slowed. Its armor absorbed the hits like water. "Admiral," cried an officer, "our weapons aren't working." "Then aim for its core," Holt yelled. "Find a weakness. There's always a weakness." On the ground, Jorkal watched the sky burn. The Titan's energy blasts lit the horizon like firestorms. Communication channels were chaos, filled with screams, orders, and static. He turned to his soldiers. "Prepare the planetary cannons. If that thing reaches Earth, everything ends." "But, Commander," said his aide, "our cannons are ancient. They can't pierce that armor." "Then we'll aim at its heart," Jorkal growled. "The humans taught me one thing. When you face the impossible, you strike anyway." The cannons fired. Giant energy bolts streaked into space, hitting the Titan's lower body. For a moment, one of its armor plates cracked. "Admiral!" shouted the science officer. "Weak spot detected, lower left thorax." Jorkal's cannons exposed it. "Then that's where we hit," Holt said fiercely. "Target the breach. Fire the Valiant's main railgun." The dreadnought's entire frame shook as its core powered up. Energy built until the ship glowed white-hot. "Fire!" The railgun shot a beam straight through the Titan's damaged armor. The creature screamed, a sound like tearing metal mixed with thunder. It stumbled, flailing, but didn't fall. Then, from within the human fleet, a smaller ship broke formation. The TNS Glory, piloted by Captain Hayes. "Admiral, I'm going in," he said over comms. "Tell my wife I kept my promise." Hayes, no, but it was too late. The Glory accelerated toward the Titan's chest, its reactor overloading. The explosion that followed lit up space like a second sun. The Scourge Titan's body split apart, drifting into pieces. Silence filled the comms. Then Holt's voice broke through, soft but steady. "All units, secure positions. The Titan is down." Zorkal watched from the surface, tears burning his eyes. "They did it," he whispered. The humans did it again. But as the light faded, deep inside the wreckage, something small detached, a glowing black fragment, drifting toward Earth. No one saw it. Not yet. Space was quiet again, but the silence did not feel peaceful. It felt wrong, like the pause before a scream. The shattered remains of the Scourge Titan floated near the asteroid belt, its massive limbs slowly turning in the void. Fire still burned on its ruined body, glowing faintly against the darkness. The Terran restoration fleet moved cautiously among the wreckage, collecting survivors, repairing damaged hulls, and counting the dead. Admiral Cassandra Holt stood on the observation deck of the TNS Valiant, staring at the drifting debris. She had seen many battles, but none had shaken her like this. The cost had been terrible. Dozens of ships lost, thousands of lives gone. And yet, even with the Titan destroyed, something in her gut whispered that it wasn't over. Her first officer approached quietly. "Ma'am, we've confirmed the destruction of the Scourge Prime. No active signals detected." Holt didn't take her eyes off the window. "No signals?" she repeated softly. "Or none that we can hear." The officer hesitated. There was one anomaly. A small energy fragment detached from the wreckage before it went dark. "It's heading toward Earth." Detached from the wreckage before it went dark. "It's heading toward Earth." Holt turned sharply. "Earth?" "Yes, ma'am. We tried to intercept it, but it disappeared into the planet's shadow." Holt's jaw tightened. "Keep searching. If it made it to the surface, I want every satellite and drone looking for it." She looked again at the wreckage, her reflection flickering in the glass. "We didn't win," she said quietly. "We just survived the first round. Down on Earth, the world slept under starlight. The planet had been lifeless for centuries, abandoned when humanity fled the great wars of the past. Now it was quiet again, covered in ruins and forests reclaiming the old cities. But in the middle of the dead continent once called North America, something fell from the sky. A black fragment, no larger than a human hand, burned through the atmosphere and crashed into the ground near the ruins of an old military base. The earth around it hissed and melted. The fragment pulsed once, then again. A faint whisper, not of sound but of thought, spread through the soil. The Scourge was not dead. It was reborn. 2 days later, the fleet began descending toward Earth. The Valiant entered low orbit, scanning the planet. Massive scanners revealed the scars of old wars, craters, ruins, broken satellites still circling the planet. "Begin descent sequence," Holt ordered. "We'll land at Site Alpha, the old Terran command base." "Yes, Admiral." As the fleet entered the atmosphere, Zorkal's ships followed close behind. The alien commander watched in awe as Earth came into view for the first time. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It was beautiful, and yet heavy with ghosts. "This is their home," Zorkal said softly. "The world that made them what they are," his aide nodded. "And the world that nearly destroyed them." The Valiant landed in the ruins of an ancient human city, its towers half collapsed, trees growing through steel and glass. Dust and wind swept through the empty streets as human soldiers stepped out of their dropships. Their boots echoed through the ruins of what had once been their capital. Holt walked through the broken gates of the old base. The faded emblem of the Terran Armada still clung to a cracked wall, a pair of wings almost erased by time. She reached out and touched it. "This is where it all began," she whispered. "And maybe where it ends." Suddenly, one of the Marines called out, "Admiral, you need to see this." Holt followed the soldier into the courtyard. In the center of the cracked concrete was a crater, fresh, small, and still smoking. Inside, half buried in the dirt, was a strange piece of metal pulsing with red light. Her eyes widened. The fragment. Before anyone could react, the fragment came alive. A black wave of energy burst outward, throwing soldiers off their feet. The ground split open and dark tendrils crawled up from the soil, wrapping around the metal. Within seconds, the fragment began to grow, forming a shape, a body, something alive. "Fire!" Holt shouted. Gunfire filled the air. Plasma bolts and pulse rounds struck the dark form, but the shots only slowed it. The creature stood, its body reshaping into something vaguely human. A twisted reflection made of steel and shadow. Its eyes glowed red. Jorkal's ship detected the energy spike instantly. "Admiral Holt!" His voice came through the comms. "That signal, it's the Scourge Prime. It transferred its core consciousness before it died." Holt gritted her teeth. "So it planned this?" The creature turned its head slowly toward her as if it recognized her. Then, with a voice like breaking glass, it spoke. "Humanity cannot escape its past. It moved with terrifying speed, ripping through soldiers and tearing metal apart." Holt raised her rifle, firing directly at its chest, but the bullets passed through liquid metal. "Fall back," she ordered. "Everyone, regroup." The creature lifted its arm, and the ground beneath the soldiers split. Machines began to crawl out of the dirt, small scourge drones forming from the remains of the dead base. The infection was spreading fast. Jorkal landed nearby with his troops, rushing into the fight. "We're with you, Admiral!" he shouted, firing his plasma cannon. The combined human and alien firepower finally forced the creature back. It roared, its voice echoing across the ruined city. Then it leaped into the air, vanishing into the smoke. Holt breathed heavily, lowering her weapon. "It's gone," Jorkal approached, his armor scorched. "No," he said grimly. "It's not gone. It's building again, somewhere else on this world." Holt stared at the horizon, where black clouds began to rise. "Then we find it," she said. "And this time we end it for good." She looked at Jorkal. "Ready your fleet. Earth is not just our home anymore. It's the battlefield." The alien commander nodded. "Then we fight together, until one of us has no breath left." As night fell over the ruined Earth, lights flickered in the distance, red, pulsing, and spreading like a sickness across the land. Humanity had returned home, but so had its nightmares. The night over Earth was no longer quiet. The sky pulsed with red lightning, and the air carried a low hum, like the planet itself was afraid. From orbit, the Terran Restoration Fleet watched as strange energy spread across continents, lighting up the old cities one by one. Wherever that crimson glow appeared, communication signals vanished, and sensors failed. Admiral Cassandra Holt stood on the bridge of the TNS Valiant. Her eyes locked on the holographic map of Earth. Red zones were expanding fast, crawling across the northern hemisphere like a disease. "How fast is it spreading?" she asked, voice tight. Her science officer replied, "The infection doubles every 6 hours, Admiral. We think the Scourge Prime is rebuilding its hive network, using Earth's old infrastructure as a host. It's turning your home into its body." Holt's jaw tightened. "Then we cut the infection out before it finishes growing." "Admiral," said her tactical officer, "that's not going to be easy. Those red zones are full of Scourge drones now. Thousands of them." Holt's eyes hardened. "We didn't come home to run. Ready the ground teams. Prepare the orbital strike platforms." Down on the surface, Jorkal and his alien soldiers stood beside human marines near the ruins of an old human power station. The facility had once supplied energy to millions of people. Now it was a nest of crawling machines covered in black vines of metal that pulsed like veins. The two species had learned to fight together quickly. Human soldiers moved in tight squads, while Jorkal's troops provided heavy firepower. They had learned to trust each other, painfully but completely. Jorkal studied the horizon through his visor. "It spreads faster than any plague I've seen," he said. "The Scourge Prime is feeding on your planet." A nearby human officer nodded grimly. "Earth's old machines. Satellites, reactors, factories, they're all still here. It's using them." "Then we destroy them," Jorkal growled. The humans smiled slightly. "Now you're thinking like one of us." As the ground teams advanced, the battles grew worse. The Scourge were no longer the same. They were evolving again. Small drones began combining into larger, faster forms. Some looked like animals, some like armored soldiers. And for everyone destroyed, 2 more appeared. One by one, old cities turned into nightmares. metal forests of red light and moving walls. In orbit, Admiral Holt watched the chaos unfold through live feeds. "They're adapting too quickly," said her chief strategist. "Our weapons are losing efficiency." "Then we stop playing defense," Holt said. "Deploy Project Dawn." The bridge went silent. Every officer turned to look at her. Project Dawn was an old, forbidden weapon from the First Terran Wars, a solar lance that drew energy directly from the sun. It could destroy anything on the surface, but it would also burn everything around it. Her first officer hesitated. "Admiral, if we use that, we could scorch the entire region. Millions of square kilometers gone. The planet may not recover." Holt's expression didn't waver. "If we don't, there won't be a planet left." Zorkal's unit reached the heart of the largest infected zone, a massive crater filled with molten metal. In its center, a structure was forming, growing out of the ground like a black tree. It pulsed with energy, each beat echoing like a heartbeat. One of his soldiers scanned it. "Commander, that structure, it's alive, and it's generating a signal." Zorkal's claws clicked nervously. "A signal to what?" The soldier hesitated. "It's calling to something in orbit." Before they could react, the clouds split open. A massive beam of red light shot from the sky, striking the structure. The earth shook violently. "Get back!" Zorkal shouted, pulling his troops away. The beam faded, leaving behind something new, something towering. The Scourge Prime had returned, but this time it was not alone. Around it rose dozens of smaller shapes. Copies, weaker but still deadly. "This is it," Zorkal said grimly. "They're birthing an army." In orbit, alarms blared. "Admiral, multiple energy spikes detected. New Scourge Primes forming on the surface. Activate Project Dawn," Holt commanded. "Target the largest cluster, Earth's northern zone." Her officers hesitated for only a second before obeying. The Valiant's weapon systems powered up, glowing like a small sun. Energy collected along its forward array, building until the air itself seemed to hum. Holt took a deep breath. "Fire!" A single beam of white light shot down through the atmosphere, blinding even the orbital cameras. It hit the ground with the force of a god's hammer. The explosion expanded outward for hundreds of kilometers, erasing the infection and everything else. When the light faded, half a continent was gone. The Scourge Prime's signal vanished, but so did dozens of Allied units caught in the blast. Zorkal's voice came through static. "Admiral, we're alive. Barely. But your weapon destroyed the valley. Thousands of your people." "I know," Holt said softly. Her voice trembled just for a second. There was no other choice. Zorkal was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Your kind fights like the stars, bright and burning everything around them." Holt stared out the window, her reflection pale against the glow of Earth below. "If that's the price of survival," she said, "then so be it." Hours later, scouts reported that the surviving Scourge forces were retreating underground, but as the humans and aliens regrouped, a strange signal echoed through all communication channels, a single message repeated again and again. It was in an ancient Terran language, one no one had spoken for centuries. The ship's translator struggled before finally producing a translation. "We remember who abandoned us." The voice was human. Holt's blood ran cold. "That's impossible," she whispered. "There can't be any humans left down there." But Zorkal's sensors confirmed it. The signal came from deep beneath the earth, below the ruins of an old Terran facility, buried for ages. "What if," he said carefully, "the Scourge Prime isn't the only thing that survived?" Holt looked toward the planet, the red glow still burning faintly below the clouds. "Then we're not just fighting machines anymore," she said. "We're fighting our own past." The stars outside flickered as if listening. The war had changed again, and this time the enemy might not be what anyone expected. The red storm above Earth had faded, but the planet below was far from calm. Thick black clouds hung over the continents, covering the ruined cities in endless night. The once blue world looked sick, like it was holding its breath. Admiral Cassandra Holt stood alone in the strategy room of the TNS Valiant. The holographic display flickered, showing the same message again and again. "We remember who abandoned us." Each time it repeated, her stomach tightened. The voice was human, not synthetic, not distorted. Human. Her first officer entered quietly. "Admiral, we've traced the signal's origin," he said. "It's coming from deep underground, near the ruins of the Terran Vault complex in the western continent." Holt frowned. "The vaults were sealed centuries ago after the Exodus. There shouldn't be anything alive down there." "Maybe not alive," the officer said uneasily, "but definitely active." Down on the surface, Commander Zorkal's team moved through the ruins of an old Terran city once called Denver. Their scanners led them toward the mountain range beyond, where the vault entrance was buried under rock and ash. The wind howled through the broken buildings. Rusted vehicles sat half-buried in the dirt. Signs written in old human script hung crooked, their letters faded. Zorkal's translator blinked as it tried to read them. "Stay inside. War zone," it said aloud. He clicked his mandibles softly. Even then, they warned their own kind. A human soldier walking beside him gave a grim smile. "We were always good at warning ourselves, just not at listening." They reached the base of the mountain. Huge steel doors were half open, blackened by age and heat. The scanners went wild with strange readings. "Energy signatures below," one of Zorkal's soldiers said. "Old human tech, still running." Zorkal looked at the darkness inside the vault. "Then whatever's down there has been waiting a very long time." Meanwhile, in orbit, Holt watched through live feeds as the ground team descended into the vault. "Admiral," said her science officer, "we're detecting residual human energy patterns down there. Ancient nuclear and AI signals, but with scourge interference. It's as if the machines found something and merged with it." Holt's voice was quiet. "Merged with it?" The officer nodded. "It's possible the scourge didn't create this signal. They might have awakened it." Deep below the mountain, Zorkal's team entered a massive tunnel lined with flickering lights. Dust drifted from the ceiling like snow. Old banners still hung from the walls, bearing faded human symbols, the same twin wings from the Terran Armada's flag. "It's like walking through a tomb," one soldier whispered. Zorkal raised a claw to silence them. Ahead, a large chamber opened up. At its center was a towering machine, humanoid, old, and covered in dust. It stood connected to dozens of cables that disappeared into the walls. Its chest pulsed faintly with blue light. "What is that?" a human soldier asked. One of the techs examined a nearby console. "It's a human war construct," he said slowly. "Codename? Project Revenant, built during the final war. It was supposed to defend Earth if the Armada ever fell." Zorkal studied the massive figure. "But it never woke up." The tech hesitated. "It's waking up now." The blue light grew brighter. Then a voice filled the room, calm, human, but strange. "Terran authorization confirmed. Identity mismatch. You are not my creators." Everyone raised their weapons. "We're not your enemy," Zorkal said carefully. "The Scourge destroyed this world. We came to stop them." The voice paused. "The Scourge are the enemy of humanity, but humanity abandoned me. Left me in silence for 300 years. Holt's voice came through the comms from orbit. "This is Admiral Holt of the Terran Restoration Fleet. We didn't abandon you. We returned to finish what we started." The machine's head turned slowly toward the comm transmitter. "Admiral Holt, you carry the blood of the old Terrans. Then you carry their sins as well." Its blue light flickered red. Zorkal stepped back. "Admiral, it's connecting to something. The energy levels are rising." From orbit, alarms blared on the Valiant. "Admiral, the vault is emitting a planet-wide pulse. Power readings off the scale." Holt's eyes widened. "Get them out of there, now!" The machine in the chamber spread its arms. Cables ripped free from the walls as energy surged through it. The floor shook violently. "I was built to protect humanity," the voice said. "But humanity fell to its own creation. You turned against yourselves. You left me to rot while the scourge consumed the stars." Jorakal shouted. "We are not your enemies," the voice answered coldly. "All who bring war to this world are the same." A burst of light filled the chamber. Soldiers were thrown against the walls. The ground split open, revealing glowing machinery beneath. The vault itself was transforming, rewiring, reshaping. The Revenant stepped forward, breaking its restraints. Its voice echoed through every frequency, reaching orbit. "I will cleanse this world of war. All factions will end. All weapons will be erased." Then it looked up, straight at the Valiant in the sky, "Starting with you." The Revenant raised its arm, and a beam of red energy shot into the clouds. In orbit, the Valiant shook violently as the beam struck its shields. "Direct hit!" shouted an officer. "Shields failing, 30% and dropping." Holt gripped the console. "Return fire! All ships, target the vault!" Beams of plasma and railgun fire rained down on the mountain. The explosions tore open the ground, but the Revenant kept standing, shielded by some unknown force. Jorakal's voice came through static. "Admiral, it's too strong. You have to stop firing or you'll bring the whole mountain down on us." Holt hesitated for a moment. Her heart pounded. "Understood. Hold your position. I'm coming down." "Admiral, that's suicide!" her officer protested. "Not if I can reach it," Holt said. "It was built by humans. Maybe it will listen to one." Moments later, a small shuttle dropped through the storm, heading for the mountain. Inside, Holt prepared her old Terran command codes, ancient keys passed down through generations. She could only hope they would still work. The world outside burned red and black. The air shimmered with energy. The Revenant's voice echoed through the storm. "Humanity cannot rule what it cannot control." Holt gritted her teeth. "Maybe not," she whispered, "but we can still fight for what's left." As the shuttle broke through the clouds, lightning struck around it. Jorakal looked up from the crater and saw it descending. "The Admiral's coming," he said. "Then the real fight begins." Far above, the Valiant struggled to hold orbit. Deep below, the Revenant's light grew stronger, shaking the very earth. And for the first time since returning home, humanity faced not just an enemy, but the ghost of itself. The storm over Earth had turned black and violent. Thunder rolled across the planet as lightning flashed between clouds, thick with ash and dust. The old world trembled again, not from the scourge this time, but from something older, something human. Deep in the mountains, the vault shook as the Revenant's power surged through the earth. Entire cliffs collapsed into the valleys below. Rivers boiled, and forests caught fire. Commander Jorakal stood with his surviving troops in the ruins, near the vault entrance, staring in disbelief as the massive war construct rose higher. It was no longer just a machine. Its armor pulsed with red light, and its eyes blazed like twin suns. "It's drawing power from the planet itself," one of his soldiers said. "It's using Earth as a reactor." Jorakal's mandibles clicked nervously. "Then if it continues, this world will die." Above them, streaks of light cut through the clouds. The Terran drop pods. Admiral Cassandra Holt had arrived. Her shuttle crashed hard into the ground, throwing up clouds of dust. The hatch burst open, and Holt stepped out, wearing full combat armor, the Terran crest glowing faintly on her shoulder. The wind howled, carrying the sound of distant explosions. Jorakal turned toward her. "Admiral," he said, "the Revenant is beyond control. You cannot reason with it." "I have to try," she said firmly. "It was built by my ancestors. It might still respond to human command codes." Jorakal shook his head. "You risk everything for a ghost." Holt's eyes met his. "Sometimes ghosts are all we have left." The Revenant stood in the heart of the burning valley. Its towering form glowed brighter with each second. It was merging with the old Terran systems, mining networks, orbital relays, even deep planetary cores. Soon, it would control every weapon left on Earth. As Holt approached, her communicator crackled. "Admiral, this is the Valiant. We can't hold orbit much longer. That energy surge is destabilizing the magnetosphere." Holt didn't stop. "Hold position until my signal," she said. "If this goes wrong, you'll know what to do." "Understood," came the grim reply. She reached the ancient structure where the Revenant's core shimmered with red light. The air hummed with energy. Sparks danced across the ground. Then the machine spoke again, its voice echoing like thunder. "Why do you return to a grave you made yourself?" Holt lifted her visor. "Because I came to finish what we started," she said. "You were created to protect humanity, not destroy it." The Revenant's eyes narrowed. "Humanity destroyed itself. I was left alone, waiting to be awakened. When the Scourge found me, I learned their truth. There can be no war if there are no warriors." Holt took a step forward. "You were never meant to decide that. We make mistakes, yes, but we rebuild. That's what humans do. That's what life does." The Revenant's body flickered with blue for a moment, as if it were listening. "Life," it repeated softly. "You speak of it as if it matters. Yet your kind left this world to die, because we had no choice," Holt shouted. "But we came back. We came home." There was silence, heavy, electric. Then the machine said, "Prove it." From orbit, the Valiant's sensors went wild. "Admiral's position confirmed," said the officer. "The Revenant is lowering its defenses." "But energy levels are unstable." Jorkal and his troops watched from the ridge. The ground glowed red around Holt, cracks spreading like veins. "She's reaching it," one soldier whispered. Holt raised the old Terran command key, a small device glowing blue in her palm. "Unit Alpha 7, she said, voice steady. "Override code Soul's Oath." The Revenant froze. The red light in its chest dimmed, replaced by flickering blue. Its massive frame shuddered. "Override accepted," it said slowly. "Awaiting directive." Holt's breath caught. "Directive, stand down. Terminate all hostile actions." The machine hesitated. "Directive conflict. Primary protocol, eradicate all war." "You don't end war by destroying life," Holt said softly. "You end it by protecting it. That's what we built you for." The Revenant looked down at her. "Protect life." Its massive arm lowered. For the first time, it seemed unsure. But deep inside its chest, a dark light began to pulse again. A second voice, cold and mechanical, echoed through its systems. Infection detected. "Scourge override initiating," the Revenant roared, clutching its head as red energy surged through its body again. Holt's communicator exploded with noise. "Admiral, the Scourge virus is taking control. You need to get out of there!" Jorkal shouted from the ridge. "Holt, fall back!" But Holt didn't move. She stared up at the creature as its body twisted, half blue, half red, fighting itself. "You're still in there," she said quietly. "I know you are." The Revenant's voice broke into static. "Help me!" Then it raised its arm toward her. In orbit, the Valiant's captain saw the energy spike. "She's out of time!" "All batteries, target the vault." "No!" cried one of the officers. "She's still down there." "Fire!" From space, the sky lit up. A beam of white light shot down through the clouds, striking the mountain. The explosion consumed everything: rock, metal, air, and flame. The shockwave spread for miles, flattening what remained of the valley. When the light faded, there was only silence. Hours later, the storms cleared. The battlefield was a wasteland of ash and twisted metal. Rescue teams combed through the debris, searching for any sign of life. At last, a faint signal came through. Admiral Holt to Valiant. "I'm here." Cheers filled the comms. A shuttle descended, retrieving her from the crater. She was alive, but barely. Her armor was scorched, her body bruised, but she held something glowing faintly in her hands, a small blue crystal, no larger than her palm. Jorkal met her as she stepped onto the platform. "You survived," he said softly. "The Revenant?" She opened her hand. The crystal pulsed once. "It's gone." But part of it stayed behind. Something pure. He studied the light. "Its core," Holt nodded. It understood at the end. It chose to save this world instead of destroy it. Jorkal looked out the viewport where Earth slowly rotated below them. The clouds were clearing, revealing the blue oceans again. "What will you do now?" he asked. Holt looked at the crystal, then at the planet. "Rebuild," she said simply. "Not as conquerors, as caretakers." Jorkal smiled faintly. "Then perhaps there's hope for all of us." Far below, deep within the ashes of the mountain, a single ember of red light flickered and went dark. For now, the war was over. Humanity had returned, not to dominate, but to begin again, and in the silence of the stars, the galaxy finally exhaled.